So yesterday we discussed about the trust. So trust is used for what purpose? Interforest, different forest, to ensure the resources to be accessed between different forests. We need to create what? The trust. So we discuss five type of trust like uh, start for default, then shortcut, then external, forest, and real. So what was the difference between them? We discussed clearly, and then after that we did the practical also, how to create a forest trust between two forests. So that was related with yesterday's session. Now coming to today's session, we are going to discuss about what we are going to discuss, the last class of the active directory. So till now, how many classes are over for the active directory? Four classes are over. In the first class, I repeat, we discuss how to configure the domain controller DC by installing the ADS service. Then in the second class, we discuss the structure of the active directory. In that, we discuss there are two types of active directory structure: physical structure, logical structure. In physical structure, DC domain controller and sites will come, and in the logical structure, we discuss it consists of logical structure means domain, tree, and forest. So we discuss what is mean by domain. Domain is what? Uh, Domain is what? Collection of devices which works under a common name, under a logical administrative boundary with common policies. So this is about the domains. So domain compulsory should contain a domain, cannot be there without domain controller. So in the real time, we'll have a domain with a domain controller. How many domain controller we can have for one domain? Only one. And we can have for redundancy or fault tolerance, what? Multiple ADCs. Yes. So how to configure ADCs we have discussed. Then how to create a tree with contiguous name and without contiguous name, that also we have done. Then forest means what? The collection of tree. So the forest name will be what? Root domain. First domain which you have created will be the name for the forest. Then in the third class of the Active Directory, we discuss the difference between DC and ADC. So the difference between DC and ADC lies in roles. So there are about total 6 roles. Out of that 6 roles, 5 roles will be present in only in DC, not in ADC. Those 5 roles are called FESMO. So can you able to remember any one of these names? So what was those 5 FESMO role? Anybody? Don't please don't mute your mic. Just keep it in a mute position only. Just write it in the yes. Very nice. Somebody written naming master. Yes. Another was schema master. Very nice. So it means you have not forgotten. It was yes. One was PDC emulator. RID master. Very nice. Almost all is covered except one name. Another name. Yes, I got that name now. Infrastructure master. Very nice, all of you. So it means you remember still the third class of our Active Directory. Yes, very nice. Then we discussed like if you want the features of yes, the last one was global catalog. We did not discuss that. That is called multi-role master because it can be present in the ADC also. I shown you how to. Yes, but we did not discuss about the global catalog. I said that we will be discussing in the final session of the Active Directory. So today we are going to discuss about catalog. What is the use? Why it will be there? That we will discuss. Then we discuss the ADC can be changed into DC and DC into ADC by two methods. One is what? Transferring. The other one was seizing. Transfer is done when we are going for maintenance, when both ADC and DC is working. And we can seize the role when suddenly this is done. So we'll seize the role from the DC to the ADC so that ADC will become DC and DC will become ADC. Once our machine is ready, then we can again seize the roles. So this is how we uh, did the practical also, seizing and transferring both practical. Then we discussed yesterday the fourth class of the Active Directory that was related with the trust. So we discussed trust has to be created between two different forests. So for domain, for inter-domain, you can say sharing of the resources between two different forests. we need to create the trust. So which type of trust is better? Forest type. How to create that we have discussed yesterday. That is up to the fourth class. Now today what is left out? Global catalog. That we will discuss along with some other points of the Active Directory. So today we'll start the final class of the Active Directory, fifth. As per our course, it is a fifth session for the Active Directory. So let me begin the session with what? Active Directory fifth class. So today we are going to focus on global catalog. Before that, we will also see the most important file in the domain is what? Which is the most important file in the domain structure? Yes, can I have the answer? In the entire forest, which file is the most important? Yes, very nice. Very impressed with your response, all of you. So that is called database file. So this database file of the DC will contain the entire information about the domain. And that file name is what? ntds.dit. That stands for what? New Technology Directory Service dot Directory Information Tree. That will be stored in C drive. Under the C drive Windows folder, under that one folder will be created with the name ntds. Inside that file will be the ntds.dit. So today we'll start the last class here of the Active Directory, and from tomorrow onward we'll proceed with the configuration of servers. So today we are finishing the final class of the Active Directory. So we are focusing first on the today on the database file first. First we are going to discuss what? The Active Directory database file. So the complete Active Directory structure is based on what? Schema master. We discuss schema master. When we discuss the roles, the schema master contain what? The definition and the rules for all the objects of the Active Directory. So the structure of the Active Directory is based on schema master. So the Active Directory database file contain logically partition, which are called Active Directory partitions. So there are about partitions. So in that multiple partitions will be there. So the first partition of the Active Directory database file will be what? Schema, which contain the rules and definition for creating the object. Next part of the partition of database file is what? It contains the information about the Active Directory structure. What do you mean by here Active Directory structure? Yes, what do you mean by Active Directory structure now? Any idea? I will tell you definitely, but before that I'm just trying to get the any information which you have already. That is my intention of asking. This is the partitions of the Active Directory database file, remember. So the first partition will be about schema, which will create the objects in the Active Directory. Then the second part is called what? Configuration partition. So it contains the information about the Active Directory structure. So we already discussed. What do you mean by Active Directory structure? Active Directory structure, logical structure, consists of what? Physical and logical, but more important we focus on what? Logical. So logical structure contain what? Just now before this we discussed logical structure consists of, yes, domain, tree and forest. So the configuration file contain the information about the child domain and the trees. How many trees are there in the entire forest? In the entire forest, how many child domains are there? How many trees are there in the entire forest? That information will be stored in the form of configuration partition in the Active Directory database file. So the first part of the Active Directory contained schema partition, which contain the rules or the definition through which we'll create the Active Directory objects. What are the Active Directory objects? We discussed number of times. Users, group, computers. These are called Active Directory objects. Then the second part of the Active Directory database file contain what? Configuration, which contain the information about the Active Directory structures, like about the information about child domain and trees. Then the third part of the this will be present only in the which DC, parental DC, not in the child DC. Remember, in child DC also database file will be there. So the third part of the Active Directory database file is called as what? Domain partition. What it is called? Domain partition. You please remember, first part is called schema, second part configuration, third part domain. So this third part, domain, contain the information about what? Your specific domain. So this will be present in parent DC as well as in the child DC. So the third partition, which is called domain partition, contain the information about the domain. So this first two partition will be there only in the parent, like we discussed in the roles. Schema master, naming master, present only in the DC. Whether the three roles like the EDC, infrastructure master, and RID master will be present in all domain. All domain means DC as well as the child DC. So same way, first two partition will be present only in the parent DC, first DC, and the third partition will be there in all DCs, including the child DC. So the third one partition is called domain partition, which contain the information about the domain. How many objects are there in the domain? What are those objects? All those object information based on the individual domain will be stored in the third part of the Active Directory database file. So it contains the information about the domain specific. In parent domain, who are the users? Parent domain will maintain the information. Child domain also will have this partition, domain partition. In that, it maintains the information of its own Active Directory objects. So child domain maintain in child which users are created. Those user information will be there in the child DC domain partition. Is it clear, everybody? Is it clear? Third point. So third partition is called domain partition. So every domain, parent as well as child domain, contain this partition, domain partition. In this partition, they contain their own Active Directory object information. So our main focus on the Active Directory object is what? Users. So which user is created in which domain? Those user information will be there in their domain partition. Please remember this point. So this third partition contain their own domain Active Directory object information. Active Directory objects are user group computers. This one. And the last one is what? The fourth is what? Application partition. So how many partitions are logically database file is divided into how many parts? 4 parts. First part is called schema, which contain the definition and rules of the Active Directory object through which we'll create the object. Second part of the Active Directory is called configuration, which contain the information about the child domains and tree. The third partition contain its own domain information, and the fourth partition contain the information about the application. Application means in which particular domain, which server is configured. Server means which provides services. So the fourth partition, which is called application partition, contain the information about what? Configuration means configurable thing, means about the what we will configure services. Suppose I configure DNS, DHCP, IIS. So in which domain, which server or which service has been configured by administrator, like DHCP, DNS, IIS, VPN, whichever service you have configured, that information about the services, in which domain, which particular services is been configured, that will be there in the fourth partition. So suppose this also will be present in the child domain, fourth partition. So in my child domain, I created suppose a service called DHCP, VPN. In the parent DC, I configured suppose the DNS, or I configured suppose IIS. So in my domain, parent domain, it contains the information about DNS and the IIS. The child domain, which services I configured, suppose DHCP and VPN. So in that information will be there. So here application means what? The services which have been configured in that domain. Is it okay, everyone? So please remember, the first two partition will be present only in the DC, whereas the other two partition will be present in all the domain. Means child domain also, parent domain also. So if somebody asks you, Active Directory database file contain how many parts logically, or it's Active Directory database file entities.dit is divided into logical into how many parts? If somebody asks, what your answer should be? 4 parts. Yes. What are they? Schema, configuration, domain, application. These are the partition names. So this will be there in the Active Directory database file. And where this file will be stored, Active Directory database file location, C drive, Windows, NTDS, ntds.dit. Is it okay now, everyone? Please take a snapshot. So can we see the Active Directory database file like this? No, this is a logical division. So now you may get a doubt this. So in my child DC, only 2 parts will be there. No, 4 parts. Every Active Directory database file, whether it is a parent domain or child domain, they contain 4 partitions. But the parent DC will have this 4 information. In the child, 4 will be there, but in the child, first 2 will have the replication of the data, the information about the DC will be replicated to the child domain. They will not have their own first and second file. So when we create a child will be the part of a parent DC. So the parent DC will send the replication of their 2 first information to the child domain. So the first 2 part will be what? DC contain that. So that information will be sent to its child. So child contain the same information. It will not create it. It will not have it by itself. The parent will send it to its child. So first 2 partition will be forest based, means it will be there in what? Our DC. That will be replicated once we create a child from the DC to the child. Then the third one contain domain specific information. Parent contain its parental object information. Child contain its child Active Directory object information. And the fourth one, in parent, which services you configured, that information will be there. In the child, which servers you configured, that information will be there in the fourth part. Is it okay now, everyone? Or shall I repeat it? So all DCs, whether it is a parent DC or child DC, please remember, will contain 4 points, 4 parts. Logical it is. So first 2 parts will have the information about the schema and configuration, which will be there in the main DC. But once you create a child, the replication of these 2 parts will be done to the child by the parent domain. And the third part will be their own specific domain information. So child will have its own information in the third part. The parent will have its own information in its third, which is called domain partition or domain part. Only first 2 will be replicated from the main DC to the child. And the third one, fourth will be individual based. Whichever thing you configured, that will be there in the fourth part. And whichever object you create in which domain, that will be there in the third part. This is about the Active Directory database file parts. So please don't think or don't imagine that child will have 2 parts and parent will have 4 parts. Child and parent both will have 4 parts, but first 2 part information will be there or will be created in only in the parent DC. When we create a child DC, these two information will be replicated by the parent to its child. And the third fourth will be domain information, and services information will be domain specific. Parent will have its own information, child will have its own information based on which object you have created in parent and which object you have created in the child. And same way, which servers you have configured in parent, it will have it in its fourth part. Same way, child will contain what are the services we configured in child in its fourth part. That is called application part. Is it clear to everyone now? So have you taken the snapshot of this? Can I go to the next point? So for this, any practical will be there? No, it will be created default. It will be created default Active Directory database. So for this, there is no practical, but you have to remember why it is again mentioned in the fifth point means the complete information of the domain will be stored where in the Active Directory database file. Where it will be present? In C drive, Windows, NTDS, then NTDS.dit file. Already I shown you. Again I repeat it. So this is important for interview point of view. So if somebody asks Active Directory database file contain how many parts means you should say 4. If they ask in detail what are they, what it contains, then this is the explanation you can give to them. Is it okay now? Okay, so we'll go to the next point. We'll go to the next point now. No, it's a logical, it's not physical. You cannot check it. And the database file you cannot open. If you try to open also, nothing you can able to understand because it will be encrypted. Now, next, what we are going to discuss now, next one, global catalog. What we are discussing? Global catalog. So we discussed in the roles. By default, how many roles we have? By default, 6 roles. By default, we have what? 6 roles. So by default, how many roles will be there? 6. So we discussed in the third topic of the Active Directory about the 5 roles, but we did not discuss about the. Okay. So you want the information about the functional level means after this we'll discuss. Just what you have to remember, parental domain, which one you have created. Forest functional level is about for the domain and DC and ADC. And domain functional level is for the child domain. So if you want, we'll discuss this later. Already we discussed, when we create a DC, always go for the least value of the forest functional level. So that when we create the ADC, you can use the lowest. Yes. If you select the highest means, at that time when you create a ADC, then that only which you have taken, that OS only has to be there. If you have selected the lowest, so when you configure in future the ADC, you can use from the lowest value to the highest, any OS which you are given. Suppose I given 2003, so I can use either 2003 or 2008 or 2012 or even 16 we can use. Lower will support higher, but higher will not support lower. Yes. So now coming to the global catalog now. The global catalog is what? So this is called multi-role master. You remember why it is called multi-role master? Because it is present in all the domain, whether it is a parent domain, child domain, even the in ADC, this will be present. That's why the name is given what? Global master or multi-master role. Whereas the 5 roles, which is called FESMO. FESMO means what? Flexible single operational mask. They are not present in the ADC. They are present only in the DC. First 5 only in DC. But last 3, RID, PDC, infrastructure, this will be present in DC, parent DC as well as in child DC. But child DC does not contain first 2, that is naming master and schema master. Okay. So what we are discussing now, global catalog. So it is called as what? Multi-master role because it is present in all the domain, including parent, child, even the ADC. So, but option is there. DC cannot be created without GC, but ADC can be created with GC or without GC. Remember this point. FSMO it is FSMO. FSMO. Flexible single operational master. So global catalog contain the complete information about the host domain and partial information about the other domain in a forest. So what is the use of the global catalog? Today we'll try to understand. So global catalog can be there in parent DC as well as in child DC. It cannot be created. Parent DC and child DC cannot be created without GC. In short, global catalog is called GC. But ADC can be created with GC and without GC. Remember this. Then, what is the use of the global catalog? Why we need to create compulsory further DC? Parent or child? Because global catalog contain complete information about its host domain and the partial information about the other domain in a forest. So if somebody asks you what the GC contain, then what you will say? Global catalog contain the information about its own domain, complete. Its own domain means its complete, its own domain, complete information it will have, and the partial information about the other domain in the forest. So with this, what is the advantage? Why we need the GC? Any idea? So with this, what is the advantage? Yes, anybody? What's the advantage of having the GC? If you do have no idea, we'll discuss it. Anybody, any idea? Or shall we discuss now? What is the usage of the global catalog? Okay, we'll discuss now. So let us take the example. Now, let me take an example. So we discuss number of time the multiple domains, yes, within the same forest. So again, I'll discuss same thing. Just a second. Let me again go with what? Multiple domain. So suppose this is my main domain. So this is called my main domain with the zoom.com. It will have main machine called DC. In this, I suppose created one user for simplicity. Domain user. This is my switch. Have number of machines. ADC. Then this is connected for bigger network. We will also have child domain. So let assume this is my child. So this also will have compulsory on DC, which client as well as ADC. Let me have another child domain. Suppose this is ITP dot MCSE dot zoom.com. This also contain DC, which some client machine along with ADC. So this is one tree. I have another tree here. This may suppose ccna.com. I'm taking same example because we discussed many times. So we are familiar with this name. So I'm using this name. You can have any other name. ccnp.ccna. This also contain domain means DC compulsory and switch along with the ADC. This is the structure of the domain. Same thing will be repeated here. So have multiple domains with multiple trees. Yes. So here, let us assume here in every DC some users are created, domain users. Yes. So let's suppose here U1 is created, here S1 is created, here P1 is created. These are domain users. One I'm taking for simplicity. It's C1. Here it might be N1. Here it might be E1. These are the domain users. So what we discussed, these are the forest. Different tree means it comes under what? Forest. So the forest name will be what? Zoom.com. They do, whether they need any trust to be created? No. Now, generally, suppose here, can the U1 log in from this machine? Can U1 log in from this machine? Yes. So how to log in? U1 at the rate where it is created, zoom.com. So now it's a Zoom, this user information, it won't be there in this domain. So it normally what happens, it will go to this. It will go to, from here, it will go to the request to this. Then it checked here. Then it will say, yes, it is there, you allowed it. So same will be replicated. So it will take more time. So we discussed one solution for this to reduce the time. What is the solution we discussed yesterday? So to avoid this login, to reduce the login time, we discussed one solution yesterday. Anybody remember? Tell me the solution name. Very nice. So not real M is for what? Different OS. Your forest are working into different. So about, no need to say sorry, just I'm reminding you. So we discussed what? Shortcut. So we can create a shortcut from here to here. So it will reduce the time so that it will don't go through this process. But even without creating the shortcut, we can able to reduce the time. So that will be done by GC. So suppose if you created the GC here, so what the GC will contain, you see that point now. So in this GC, compulsory GC will be there. So when you create a GC, what happened? GC contain complete information about its own domain, complete information about its own domain. Own domain means, suppose this domain name is what? Parent, zoom.com. So it contain what are the object created, what are the group here it is having, what are the computer it is having. So it contain its own complete information about its own domain, and the partial information about the partial information. Partial means some information about other domain. Partial information of all other domain. All other domain. So suppose this is the I created here domain GC. So GC contain its full information, like what are the user here it is created E1, but U1 is not created. So what it will do? It also have the partial information about this domain, this domain, this domain, this domain, this domain. So now it knows that this user is been created where? In the zoom.com. So instead of going directly here, it will act like this with the help of GC. Now suppose from this machine, a user called P1 is logged in. P1 is created where? At the rate mcitp.mcsc.zoom.com. So now Here, what this user will do instead of going to this lengthy process, it has its own information. It will check. In my database, my user is E1, but the P1 is not. P1 is written where this. So it have the partial information, not complete partial information about all other domain. So it also have the information about where this MCITP is there. So directly it will go there. No need to create the shortcut. So it reduces the time. So it works like an index. In our long book, first we have the index. So in the index will be the topic name. So and so topic on so and so page. So it will reduce our time for searching. So we'll see the topic name, we'll see the page name. We'll go to there. The same way, it will act like an index. That partial information will act like a index, so that which domain you have written, directly it will send it without having the shortcut. When we are maintaining the GC, there is no need to maintain the shortcut because it will have the partial information. Full information it will have own domain. Partial information about all the other domain in its forest. So once you write the complete name, it will directly go to that instead of searching all this. So this is the use or purpose of the GC. So I hope you understood now the importance of GC. Yes, the GC reduces the time for the user login or logout for data. Yes. So now you can see the slide. You can understand easily now. So GC contain complete information about host domain, means its own domain. Host means its own, and the partial information of all other domains in the forest. Because of this, it will search like a index. I told the word index, like in our book, you remember, index will be there. Which topic in which page. So same way, so it contain by searching the GC, individual domain do not have to query up like it will do without GC. It will go to parent, parent will go to the grandparent like. So it will GC can resolve or can search or can able to go directly like a shortcut to the domain to whom you want to access. So it reduces the time. So a server which is having a copy of global catalog are called global catalog server. So please take a snapshot of this. Then can I go to the next point? Next point is what? Next point is what? Now we'll do the practical of global catalog. So generally, you cannot create this without global catalog. But can you create a ADC without global catalog? With or without? Yes. So suppose you have created a ADC without knowing the importance of GC. Now you understood the GC is important. Now what you are doing, you are trying to install the global catalog in ADC. So how you will do? That is our practical. By mistake, if you are not selected, by default it is selected, but you don't know the importance of GC. So you unchecked and created the ADC. Now the ADC is ready. Now you want to install or configure the global catalog without disturbing the existing ADC. Can you do that? Can you enable the global catalog without making any changes? Yes. So that is our today's practical. How to configure or enable the GC in a server. This server, ADC server. If the global catalog is not configured while configuring the ADC, it is not selected or it is disabled by you, knowingly or unknowingly, then can you get that global catalog in your ADC? Yes. How to do it? We'll see the practical. Yes, can we start with the practical? Have you taken this snapshot or the photo? In DC, you cannot go to the next step once the global catalog is unchecked. It will be compulsory, mandatory. DC cannot be created without global catalog. Okay. So shall we do the practical now? So let us start with the practical now. So now how to configure the global catalog. So let us see how to configure the global catalog. So to configure the global catalog, I don't have, so suppose ADC. So I'll do it practical in the DC only. By default in DC, global catalog will be enabled. But how, if it is not enabled, how we can do it? I'll show you. So global catalog will be present in another console. That console name is what? Till now, we discuss how many consoles. When we install the Active Directory, you will get default 6 consoles. So till now, how many consoles you are know? Two consoles we mostly used, like ADUC console and yesterday's another console, ADDT, Active Directory Domain and Trust. Today we'll see one more console. What is that console? ADSS. A GPM console is different. That is for group policy. It is not related with Active Directory. In the console, the name will come Active Directory. Yes. Without installing Active Directory, also GPM will be there. So today we are working on another console called ADSS. So in that, Active Directory sites will be there. You have to expand the sites, then expand the default site name, then expand your servers, expand your system. Then there you will find what NTDS setting. So right click on the NTDS setting, click on the properties, check the box. If it is unchecked, you check it. Apply. Yes, okay. So this is how. Yes, that's a full name for ADDS is what? Active Directory, site and servers. Okay. So this is the simple practical we have today. So I think you are already everybody have the file. Can I start with the practical? So how many machines you need for this practical? For this practical global catalog, how many? Yes, very nice. Only single machine. So let me open the machine, one of the machine here. I'm opening what? My machine is already DC, so by default it will be configured. But if it is not configured, how we can configure? I'll show you. So one machine is enough for us for this particular practical. Till it get open, once again you see the practical steps. Very simple. Go to ADS console, expand sites, and expand what default site name, servers. Then you can find their NTS setting. Right click on that, check the box. Now this is my DC machine. In DC, I'll show you this practical. So by default, you will get these consoles. Rajesh, you can see these are the consoles you will get. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These consoles will be there only when you make the ADTA service install. This will be there by default. Now we discussed this console mostly. Now we are yesterday discussed this. Now we are going for what? This one. And already we use this PowerShell for changing our voice from graphical to text to graphic. Now let me go to this Active Directory sites and services. The console. So first we need to expand what? Sites. Now can you see here default site? Select right click. Then you find here what? Property. Now expand here. Sorry, here servers will be there. And the servers you can have the machines here. My machine. So this is DC machine, system one. Here you can find this entity setting. Right click on that, then go to the property. So here you will find what? Already it is installed. So if it is not installed, it will be like this. It will be like this. So how do you do this? How do you do this? Go to the same steps, like first sites, then come to the default site, expand this servers, then your system name. You will get what once you open the system name ntts.file. You right click on that, you will get this option. Check it. Go. So even if you have configured the ADC without this, you can enable later on so through this process. Once again, I'll show you this process because it's simple. It doesn't take much time. So just you can see here. ADSS console. So let me open this. First sites, expand the sites. In default sites, you expand the servers. As per your system name, you will get a file. Right click and prop. It will be unchecked if it is not selected. Just check it, then say apply. Okay, that's it. So have you understood the first practical for today's session? That is the GC. Everybody. The other machine also I used. Other machine also I used like a DC. No, yesterday. No need to update. You remember when you go to the GPM console at that time update it need. You if you want the other machine also is GCC here. So I did not open it, did not on it. I did not add it because they are two different forms yesterday. If I add it, then I can use it. Is it okay now? So our next thing for today is what? We discuss what now today? First, the structure of the Active Directory. Now we discuss what? GC. Next, what is pending? Anybody? What we have to discuss one more thing in the Active Directory? And anybody write it? Physical structure. Yes. DC we completed. Physical structure means what? Which we can see. So, like DC, which we are configured, it is in some machine. So that machine you can see. But that machine is kept in which location? That is called what? Sites. Now we need to discuss about what? This is already configured. So we need to discuss about what? Sites. How to create the site. So when we were doing this practical, group policy can be applied on OU, domain and sites. I shown you the practical on site, but I used the default site. But I did not show you how to create a site. With now today's session, you will understand if your servers are in different location, how do you create your own sites? Instead of depending on default site, you can create your own site. Then you can have the policy apply on the multiple domain like parent domain, child domain by using the sites. Yes. So our next topic, what we have to discuss is what? About the sites. Now let us discuss about the sites now. So site means what? Site means what? Any idea? I told you roughly what is meant by site. When we were discussing the roles also at that time I told you. Not role, sorry, Active Directory structure. Sorry, the second class, structure of the Active Directory. I told you what is site. Anybody? No, collection of services, no. No, a place, a location, like people who are, might be some other places, but I know the simple example like people who are related with like civil engineering, architecture, civil engineering. So they people they use this word very often. I'm going to this site. Where are you? Means I'm at this site. So for them, site means what? Site means what for them? For civil engineer people who are working, site means what? Location. Yes, location, place where they are doing or constructing the building or anything. So that is what called workplace. Yes, so the workplace where they are there. That is the work area, workplace, whatever you call. That is called location in simple language. So our DC we can see how to check in which machine the ADD DC is configured. Net accounts by that process or computer role name. But where that machine is kept, that place also you can see no. That is called site. Just time is changed. I'll change it later. But both the machine time should be same. Uh, then we will not get any problem while doing the yesterday practical forest. Now, instead of disturbing the session, I'll do it without fail. So you are observing everything minutely. Okay, no problem. Okay. So we'll go to now which topic? Sites. Yes. So you just get an idea like site means what? Site means what? A place, a location. physical structure we discussed consists of example, domain controller, and sites. So how to configure the domain controller you already know. Now what is left out in the Active Directory class? Sites. So this is our last topic in the Active Directory. So site means what? A set of well-connected IP subnet. Means you may have one DC or multiple DC or one DC with multiple ADCs. All those things is what called a set of well-connected IP subnet. So when your DC is there, compulsory in real time they'll maintain what? ADC also. So we discuss we may have one ADC or multiple. So all they are kept in one location. So that is called a set of well-connected IP subnets. So generally, a site can be used for getting the services. So what is the use of the site? With the site, what we will do generally? Site. One of the uses of the site we already discussed. Site is used to apply the group policy. Apart from the group policy, we can also use the site for what? Replication means one DC will be there, one child DC will be there, one ADC will be there. So the replication from the DC to ADC should take place. But if it is always means your network will be slow. So you can select the replication should take place during the which hour when the traffic is less, when the users are less. There will be whenever any company MNC which works 24/7, there will be some odd hours where the users or the traffic will be less. Generally, suppose if it is Indian based company, I'm saying totally Indian based. So you may have a less traffic between which hour example, 24 hours you are working, which hour you will find less traffic, 2 3 hours, which don't say night, which hour, exact time, 2 to 3 hours, which one? Yes, might be yes, 1 to 4, might be 12 to 3, yes, that is the time. So during that time only we can set the replication by using what? Sites. So site usage is what? Site can be used to apply the group policy, as well as using the site we can able to select the replication time according to our convenience. When the traffic will be less, at that time we can do the replication, so that to avoid the consumption of huge bandwidth every time. So instead of every time the data is going, we'll select some time. During that time only, least traffic hours, data will be transferred from the DC to the ADC. That is also done with help of what? The sites. What is the use of the sites? Sites are used for what? Sites are used for what? For the applying the group policy, as well as sites can be used for what? Replication purpose of the data from the DC to the ADC. And one more important thing is what? Say suppose if your company is existing in multiple countries. So your main office, suppose assume in India, and you have some branches in suppose some other country. Let's example US. So suppose the domain user will be created here. I'm assuming like this. My main branch is India. My branch office is US. So domain user will be created for where? In India or in the US? If the main branch is in India, I have two offices. One main is in India, other branch office in US. So I created as an administrator the user, domain user in India, everything. But I have some small setup in US. So everything has to be created where? In India. But some servers to be kept in US, but their client. So now more people are working from India, but some people need to work from US also. So look after the US client. So now by domain users will be created here. But if they try to log in to my domain user server, so it will take longer time for them, longer time to log in. So at that time, we can create in US one server, and we can server doesn't know which server is kept in which location. So we can create one site for the US, and we can indicate to the users to log in from that site. So the login become faster. So that is what it is given. So site can be used to apply the group policy. Site can be used to do the replication as per our time convenience, and it is also used to locate the services, means log on. Which user should log on from which server? You can locate that. So as to make your network fast. So you can create like a site mentioning that this US user should log in from the US machine. So you can just create one ADC in the US. So you'll create one site. So those users will be automatically log in from the US site instead of India site. That we can do with Alpha site. So creating of sites will have the main benefit. One is what group policy can be applied. Second is what replication can take place according to our time setting. And the third one is what which particular user should log in from which particular server. We can set that by creating the site. So these are the three main benefits by using the sites. So I said the third one, so suppose you have main office in India, the other office in US. So you want US client to or the employees who are working from the US branch, instead of login from they will, the login will be created in India. So instead of login from India, it will take a lot of time. So what you can do, just create one site in the you can keep one ADC server in the US. So the users which are created in the DC will be there in the ADC. So in the ADC, you will create a site mentioning that these users should log in from this server. So by that, the user will not appear, will come to the India server for login purpose. They can log in directly from the US server, which is not a main server, just a replicated server, ADC. So they'll write the data. So data can be stored in the ADC. So we can transfer that data in the odd hour from the ADC to the PC. These are the things we can do by creating or by using the sites. Is it okay now? Yes, we will work through the WAN. But internally, when the users are working, the connection is done through the WAN. Internally, some users might be working in India, some users might be in US. So there also you require LAN setup. So through our course, we are doing through the LAN. But the connectivity is established from India to US through what? WAN, through the internet. How to do it? You need the router. That will be discussed in the system. Yes. Next point. Sites are connected with what? We have to create. For site, we have to create what? Site links. How to create the site link? We'll discuss practically. Next, you can have domain with two types. One single site for multiple domain, or a domain can have multiple sites. Both the options are possible. Suppose a site with multiple domain means all the things you kept in same location. All this domain you kept in same location. Then it is called a site, a single site with multiple domain. But suppose you can have a domain in multiple, means you kept the DC in one location and ADC in other location. So it is a single domain, but it is having multiple sites. So a site can be there with multiple domain, or a single domain can be there with multiple sites. I repeat once again. Uh, I repeat once again. No, for WAN you need what? Uh, router. WAN to LAN, we need switch, yes. But WAN to WAN connectivity, you need with the help of what? Router. We discussed that in initial classes. Now my voice is okay. I'll repeat once again. A single domain can have multiple sites. I'm explaining you the last point. A single domain can have multiple sites. How? Suppose my DC is in India, my ADC is in what? US. So there are single domain. DC and ADC is a part of a single domain. So, but they are kept in different locations. So that is the example for what a single domain can have multiple sites. Now come to the second last point. A single site can have multiple domain. Means suppose I don't have the branch office. All the servers I kept in one location only. So my main domain is there, my child domain is there, my ADC is there. All there are in one location only. So that is the example for what a site with multiple domain. So you can have a site with multiple domain or a domain with multiple site. That is the last 2 points. Hope understood. If you are not understood, please tell me. I'll repeat once again. Is it understandable now? My voice is okay? Okay. So now this is about the theory. So please take a snapshot of this. So please take a snapshot of this. So you want me to explain the third point? So we'll do that practically. A site should be created with the side links. Then only they will create. So when a site is created, the site should be connected with what? Side links. So if you want a connection between two sites, then you need to create site links. How to create the site links? We'll discuss practically. Yes, understood? Now we have the example now here. Now here you have two sites. There are two sites. So assume this is your some servers are kept in India. Some servers are what US. So you want a communication between these two means the WAN connectivity should be there. But if the users need to share each other data, you need to also create what the sites. So that what will happen with the sites? Three important things will happen. The data can be transferred during our hours as per our schedule. Then you can say you can configure the site so that these users who are working here they need to log in from this server by creating this site. And one more thing is what we can apply the group policy. So you apply the group policy here. So that same policy should be applied to this also. Then you can create the site. These are the advantages with what site. So if you have the site, you need to compulsory create what? The site links. How to create? We'll see. You just create a site. They don't get communicated. They don't get linked unless until you create the site links. Okay, I'll show you. Just take this, then I'll show you the physical structure. You mean the physical structure of the Active Directory? Somebody said no physical structure slide, please. So I'm just asking, you mean physical structure of the slide of the Active Directory or the previous slide of the sites? Can you just write it so that I can show you that? Previous slide or Active Directory slide? Okay. So have you done everybody this? Okay. So let us go to the somebody need this slide. Take this. Take this. It's done. Next. Anybody have not taken this also, you can take. Then about this GC. Next. Physical structure of Active Directory. Example, domain controller and sites. Now the last one. Now we have the practical. How to create a site and how to create a site link. Okay. And we start with the practical. Yes. See, I already told you about the RODC, read only. Read only domain controllers. How to select that? We have the option when I configuring the ADC. I told you, if you disable the GC, you can have one more option called RODC, read only. So with this, if you select this, what will happen? You keep RODC server in remote place. Means they can only observe whatever things is there in the DC, but they cannot do any changes. So the backup of the DC is what? ADC. ADC will have what? Read write option, but you can also create a separate called RODC. So there, as the name indicate, read only domain controller. So in that, the replication of the DC will be done, but you cannot do anything from the RODC because it have only read option, no write option. But in the DC and ADC, it's two-way. Means you can make any changes or you can add anything from the ADC. So once you do anything, it will be replicated to the DC. Whatever you do in the DC, it will be replicated to the ADC. But with the RODC, only one way, from DC to RODC. Never from the RODC to ADC because you cannot do anything in the RODC. Okay, with this, we have done with the slides now. Now, our practical for today is what? Practical for today is what? How to create a site and site links. So let us go to that. This is about the practical about the sites. So this also. So creating a new site. How to create a new site? So now to create a new site, again you need to log in as admin. Go to same console, ADSS. Just now we have opened that for global catalog. Same console. Right click on the site. Click on what? New site. Then you give any name. For example, I given India. Select the default site. Then say okay. Like this, you create one more site. Like with the name what? US. So how many sites we are creating? Two sites. So will they communicate? No. Site means they should have what? Compulsory. A place where the DC is kept. So minimum we should have the DC. So after creating the site, creating the site, you need to add one server into the one server DC into the India site. Same way, you need to add another machine into the US sites. Now the site is completed, but they will not communicate unless until we create the site links. So this is to create a just a site. Then the second paragraph. Here we can understand how to create a site links. So to create the site links between India and US, what you have to do? Expand again the site. Expand the site. Expand the site now. Then expand the site. Then right click, uh, expand inter-site transport. Right click on IP. Creating the site link, we have to expand what? Inter-site transport. Then right click on IP. Click on new site link. So you want to create a link between India to US. So you give the name. Either you give US India or India US. Then select that site. Then click on add. New site is created with what name? India US. Then select that. Then click on add. Okay. Then right click on that site. Then you click on the properties. Then click on change schedule. Then you can select the replication should not be available or should be available from what time to what time. Select the replication hours, because AD sites can be used for also replication. As per our how to apply the policy on the site, we already know. So this is the way we can do it. Okay. So this is about the how to create a site and how to create the site links so that replication takes place. Now I'll do the practice. Now I need to log in as an administrator. Now to create the site, we need to go to which console? Which console? This console. ADSS, Active Directory Sites and Console. Open this. Now it will be something like this. First create the site. So how to create a site? Right click on the site, new site. First you create one site with your name. Like I'm creating a site with what name? India. Then select here default site link, IP, name. So one site is created with what name? India. Same way you create one more site. Let's suppose this is yes. Then two sites have been created. After creating the sites, you need to add the DCs into that. So for that, what you need to do, you open your servers will be there. So any machines are added into that? No, by default. So you open your default site. In that you have the servers. So you push one of the machine to the India server and one machine to the US server. So now you can say move to which server? India server. Now same way you have system to move US. So now the site is created. Now you can have here for India server, system 1 is there, for this system 2 is there. Yes. Now site is created, but they don't communicate unless until you create a site links. So to create the site links, we need to use what? This inter transport. Then select here what? After opening this, you can find here what? IP. Select here, then go to what? Property. Then here, select the default inter site transport. Right click, properties. here you have what? IP, then default site link, then go to the properties. Now here you have change schedule. I repeat once again how to get this. First you go to the where to create the site link. First expand the inter site. Then you have what? IP. Double click that IP. Open it. You'll find default site links. Right click on that. You will find what? Properties. Then you go to where? Change schedule. We need to click on what? Change schedule. So the replication is configured default from 12 a.m. to 12 means 24 hours. But we don't want replication to take place 24 hours. So first we need to select here replication should not be available. Then select the odd hour where the traffic will be less. Suppose I'm selecting between 2 to 4. 2 to 4. What is the time I selected? 1 to 4 example. So the replication should take place. This is suppose 24-hour company, 24 by 7, 30, 365 days. Now you select replication available. So now the replication takes place from the DC to ADC between these hour only. Now say what? So this is the cost that you learn in CCNA. For how many minutes it will take every replication. You want to reduce, you can reduce. Like, so this is how we can create the site and site links. So did you understood this concept of the practice? Yes. If you have in the real time, what? Once you created this site, this machine will be connected to the internet. That machine also will be connected to the internet. So the link is created. Now they will communicate with the help of this site links. In the real time, everything is done now through the what? Internet, through the WAN technology. Internally, you need to create the site links. No, that is the time for the replication from the US server to the India server. That is the only time connectivity is not there. Replication, the date of transfer from server of the US to India or India to US. 24 by 7, the connectivity will be there, but transferring will be done to avoid the band, to save the bandwidth. We are doing that because if you are transferring the data, users also connecting, then a lot of bandwidth will be consumed. The network will be slow. So that we are doing like. Did you understood now? Yes, that is the schedule for replication. Yes, our DC will be connected to LAN, but this will our DC will be connected again to a what? Firewall for incoming and outgoing checking. Then that firewall will be connected to the internet. This is how the setup will be there in the real time. Traffic will be checked from the firewall. Then firewall will be connected with the what? Internet. Okay, I'll open that. This is for creating the link. First, how to create a site. Then I'm creating the site. The rules will be written in the firewall, who should be allowed and who should be restricted, from where the traffic will be allowed and where the traffic will be restricted. How to create a site. How we can know the time means, you know, the common, like we discussed, when the traffic will be less during the odd hours, like between the 1 to 4 or 2 to 4. So at that time, users will be less, so we can transfer the data. That's why the replication time I have selected the time when the traffic will be less. So how to know the time? We have selected no time as per our convenience when the traffic will be low. Accordingly, we have set change the schedule, then we can use that option. Here, when I show you the practical, how I shown you this here. So what time you want? When the traffic is less, at that time only the replication should take place here. In the schedule, then keep the time as per your change again. You use this option. Select as per your requirement. Then change to this. I want only this time, so I selected like this. Okay, 1 to 5. No, I want only 1 to 4. Reduce it. 2 to 4. Then select here. Okay. Understood now? So we have enough time. So we'll discuss one more small concept today. One more small concept we'll discuss. That is Active Directory Recycle Bin. So we generally have what recycle bin. What is the use of the recycle bin generally? Why the recycle bin is designed by the Microsoft people? When we delete anything, at that time we felt important to delete. We delete it, but after some days we thought what I deleted was a mistake. So if you have a recycle bin, our deleted things will be stored by default there for certain duration of time. So if you again get a requirement to get the data, you can go to the recycle bin. From there, you can get it back that. Yes. Same way, in our course, MCSE, which one is the most important thing for us? Just let me check your answers. We almost cover 60 to 70% of the course. So in this course, which particular service you find the most important service now? In MCSE course, which service? Yes, ADDS. ADDS. So for that, once you install the ADDS, you are making what DC, complete DC data is maintained where in the sorry, that is called database file. But sometime you will delete some object which you have created from the DC. What are the Active Directory objects? Users, group, computer. So one day you thought this is not needed, you have deleted. But after some day you thought what you have deleted is a big, very big mistake. Then how to get it back? So the things which have been deleted from the Active Directory will never be stored on the recycle bin. So for that, they design one more recycle bin separately for the Active Directory. That is called Active Directory Recycle Bin. So whenever you delete any object means whether it is a user, group, computer from the Active Directory, that by default will be stored in the recycle bin of the Active Directory. So I'll show you the practical. By default, that Active Directory Recycle Bin is disabled. How to enable it? In the real time, once they configure the DC, they will enable the Active Directory Recycle Bin so that whenever they create any delete them, that will be stored in the Active Directory Recycle Bin. So whenever they need it back, they can retrieve it back from the recycle bin of the Active Directory. So one important doubt or question might be how long that Active Directory recycle bin will store the Active Directory object information. Any idea? Forever it cannot store. So there is some stipulated time. So what is that time? Yes, the answer is 180 days, not 90 days, 180 days. This is the default days they have kept. Whenever we delete any object from the Active Directory, it will be stored in recycle bin. That will remain how many days? 180 days. So during these days, when we find any requirement to get it back, we can get it back. So how to get it back? Yes, otherwise it will be lost. How to get it back? Within that 180 days, I'll show you. Okay. So shall we do that practical? Last one. Active Directory recycle bin. Active Directory recycle bin. Okay. Now the practical of this Active Directory recycle bin. So Active Directory recycle bin. You can do it on the DC or ADC, no problem. So I'm here mentioned what after the forest. Yesterday we had two machines as a DC. One was India Zoom.com, another HDFC. You can do on any machine. So for this, which console you have to open now? Another console. So for Active Directory recycle bin, by default it is disabled. So we are enabling it first. So how to enable the Active Directory recycle bin? You need to go to a console called ADAC. Which console? Which console? ADAC. What will be the full form of this? What will be the full form of ADAC? Anyone? I'm just waiting for your reply. No one? Okay, I'll tell you. My voice is audible. No? You are able to hear me, everyone? Okay. So here ADAC stands for what? Active Directory Administrative Center. What is the full form of ADAC? Active Directory Administrative Center. So in this, which thing will be present? Active Directory Recycle Bin. So we need to go to the ADAC console, click on our domain name. Then we can see the recycle bin at the right side. So click on raise forest functional level. So by default we have selected it what 2003. So you need to raise it. So select like 2008 R2 or something like that. Okay, okay. Same way you raise the domain functional level. This you will not get the option to enable the recycle bin. You have to refresh that console ADAC. Then you will get an option to enable the recycle bin. Enable it. Then again refresh the ADC console. Now where our objects will be there, Active Directory objects will be there in ADC console. So go to that console. Either you create a new object or existing object you delete. Existing object you delete. Now go to the ADAC console. In that the what is your just now enabled Active Directory recycle bin. Whenever Active Directory recycle bin is enabled, you will get one folder with a name what deleted object. When the Active Directory recycle bin is not enabled, you will not have a folder called deleted object folder. So you go to the deleted object folder, right click on that, whichever user or object you have deleted, that will be there. So just right click on that object and click on restore. Again, you will get it back in the ADC console. So this is about the Active Directory recycle bin. So can I go with the practical? Yes, everybody. Can I go with the practical now? Yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you for your confirmation. I'm going with the practical. So I'm doing this console. Ah. So which console we have to use here? First console. ADAC. What is the full form of ADAC? Active Directory Administrative Center. So we need to open this Active Directory Administrative Center. Now, now here you can find here what? So you open your domain. Now, when you open your domain, my domain name is what? Zoom.com. So can you find at the right side here? Can you see my right side? By default, is recycle beam is disabled. It is not enabled. So I'm enabling it. How to enable? So to get that option enable, we have to raise the forest functional level as well as we have to raise the domain functional level. Both we have to raise it. So how to raise it? You just click on it. So what we have selected, it is available from 2008 onwards. So that's why it is not showing 2003. So you just expand, you'll find the option what? Either you can go for 12 or R2. I'm going with what? R2. And say what? Okay. Now, now we need to raise this also again. Which one? Forest functional level is raised. You need to raise the domain forest. So this is also already raised by that option. Now you will get what? You will get what? Enabled. It should get recycle beam enabled. Still, it is not enabled. You are not getting highlighted. To enable it, it should be highlighted. So what you have to do? Refresh it. So this console refresh is here. You refresh 2-3 times. Will you find this now? Highlighting. Now you can enable. So it is saying you want to enable it? Yes. It has been enabled. So once it is enabled, one folder will be created with what name? Deleted object. So find this folder not there. Then you refresh it. See, it is appearing now. Deleted objects. So when you see the deleted object folder means a recycle beam is enabled. Now to the now, what is the use of this recycle beam? It is stored the Active Directory objects. So Active Directory objects are created from where? From the ADUC console. So you go to the Active Directory ADUC console. Then you have some users already. So like this you can create our existing users. So I'll delete these users. Let me delete these users. So how many users I'm deleting? So suppose 4 users I'm deleting. Delete. 4 users have been deleted. Is the users are there in the ADUC console now? U1, U2, U3, U4. No. But I don't have to worry. I deleted by mistake, but I don't have to worry. Why? Because I enabled the Active Directory Recycle Beam. Then again, you go to the Active Directory Recycle Beam, where it will be there in the first console, Active Directory Administrative Center. Now, this will be stored by default in which folder? You open your domain. There you find what? Folder with what object? Deleted object. Open it. So you want to restore all of them. Then again you select all the users which you want. Right click. It will ask the option restore to. You want another location? Restore to. No, I want same location where it was deleted. Just restore. It's been restored. How do you check it? Again go to the ADUC console now. Again you go to the same console, ADUC console. Now, did you got it back? Yeah. So this is what the use of the Active Directory Recycle Beam. So it stores only our not normal information which you are deleted. It stores only the Active Directory objects things. That's why it is called Active Directory Recycle Beam. So So is it okay for everybody? Is it okay, everybody? So do you want me to show one more small topic, remote desktop, or shall we do some other day? Maximum people, what you want? You want? I'll. Time is there. It means we'll wind up the session today now. Okay, maximum people saying what? Proceed, continue. Remote desktop, everyone. Okay, thank you for your response. I'll continue now. It will not take much time, but I need to make a setup. That setup should be what? For this, we need two machines. In one machine, we'll enable what? Remote desktop. From other machine, we need to take the remote desktop. So that other machine should be a part of the domain. Means it should be joined into the domain. Means it should be a member server. So I will make the setup before you. I have two machines here. One is DC. Other one is also yesterday we did the forest. So other machine is also DC. I need to make it first as a member server. How to do it? I'll show you. So this can be done only by administrator. So you log in as an administrator again. So how to check whether this machine is DC or not? Same. You can check from the computer. You can check from the computer. See, it is a which domain HDFC yesterday we created. Or you can go to the run. You can go to the run. Then type it what CMD. I selected the physical machine. So here run. Then type it what net space accounts. Sorry, spelling mistake. So it is a so I need to make this machine first work group, then join into the domain. Then only I can take the remote desktop. Because the machine from where I'm taking a remote desktop, it should be part of the domain. So how to make it this first work group? Go to the computer, click on what? Change setting, then click on change, then go to the move, then remove the from the background what this name HDFC, then select here what you want to remove. You want to make this machine as a what? Domain. Might be there is the system. It is also from the controller. That's why it is not highlighted. Let me go to restart now. It is a DC means I remember I forgotten one more thing. I need to demote it also. I'll do it now. Demote it. Setup I'm doing before front of you so that you'll get a idea about what are the things you need to do for which particular practice. Again, I'll log in. Still, it will show me as what primary because I did not demoted it. I need to demote it. When I go to here, net space accounts, it will show me primary. So I need to demote it before I make it a work group or join into the domain. So go to this PowerShell, graphical also, but this will be easy, faster. So just here to write uninstall tab and hyphen demote hyphen force. Just write few letter, press the tab. It will ask the confirmation of the administrator password. Give 2 times. Finished. Now it will be demoted. So now EC will be removed. Only ADDS service will be there. That is enough for us to join into the domain. If you want to remove the ADDS also, you can remove. The command I already given you. Another command. Previously I shown you. This we are not doing practical. Just we are making the machine should be member server or client for taking the remote desktop because it should be a part of domain. You can see in the flag will appear a yellow color because we have demoted it. Now only ADDS will be there, but promoting to the DC or ADC is removed. Now what I'll do, that is not a problem. So what I'll do, I'll get the first icons. How to get the icon? Type what icons, setting, or height icons, check the boxes. Administrator is logged in. Now, if you go to the command prompt, it will not show primary now. workspace accounts. Make some font size bigger. I'm making the font size bigger little so that you can see easily. I'm giving net accounts in the command prompt. Now it's showing server. So it has removed from the PC. Now what you have to do? Go to the computer, change into the work group. Change now to the work. Now the machine is ready. Now we need to give the IP address. Yesterday we changed the IP address. Again we need to change. Now I'm joining this machine into the domain. Before that, I should having the IP address. Now the IP address should be what? Preferred DNS should be the IP address of the DC. Alternate DNS is not needed. Now just say what? Okay. Just disable and enable the LAN. Now we need to join this machine into the domain. How to join this machine into the domain? Again, go to the computer properties, click on what? Change setting, click on change and join into the domain. Which domain? Our main domain. What is my main domain? Room dot. I make the machine ready for the remote desktop. Still we haven't started the remote desktop. Is having some problem. Okay, but shut down because the license is expired. After 1 hour, it will shut down. Once this machine, I'll just another machine into the domain. Are you following everybody? Just wait a minute, it will be over. Now see here, the DC is ready. So I'll join this machine into the domain again. It is asking what? Confirmation or authentication. Data. Create our domain name. What is our domain name? Now our domain has become the part of our domain. Now we can use this machine as ready to take the remote desktop of the DC. Now we'll begin with the practical of how to take the remote desktop. So before this machine get on, let me just quickly go through the remote desktop. Yes, we can take it from the client OS also, but it should be part of the domain. The last practical for today is what? Remote desktop. In short, it is called RDS, remote desktop. Now, log in into the DC machine. First, enable the remote desktop because it will be disabled. Open the server manager console dashboard. Then on that, you will find what? Remote desktop, which is disabled. Double click on it to enable it. Then click on the remote tab. Allow the remote connection to this system. Apply. Okay. Now verification in system 2. That should be a member server. Log in as an administrator. Go to the start menu by using the Windows key. Search setting. You write remote desktop. Then in the computer tab, give IP address of the DC. Then click on connect. Use the administrator name, administrator at the rate zoom dot. Password. Then you can find the remote desktop. I'll show you now exactly what I said. Same thing. So, this I should go for the DC to enable the remote desktop. Log in as an administrator. So I need to open the server manager console, which is getting default open. So now, generally we were using this option to add the services from the dashboard, but to enable remote desktop, you need to go to the local server. So please go to this local server. Now here you will find what remote desktop. Can you find remote desktop is disabled? It is there in the local server. So double click on the remote desktop. Now it is here is what you are enabling. Allow what? Do not allow. So you say what? Allow remote connection to this. Right? Now, now from the disable it has been enabled. Just if you read, you can see remote desktop. Now take the remote desktop. How to take the remote machine? Log in as administrator. This is from client machine. Log in as administrator. Go to the search. Type it what? Remote desktop. Got it? Remote desktop. Then it is asking the computer name. So here, just we did not configure the DNS. So use the IP address. What is my DC IP that you have to? Then you say what? Connect. It is asking the user administrator. Administrator at the rate domain name. Now you will get once the connection is established, you will get the remote text. Now you will be in the DC. Everything you can do from this is very useful when you are a specialist. So suppose your servers are in some other places. Instead of going there, once you enable this, so by taking here, by sitting here, you can do any changes by taking the remote text from your home or from any place. Yes, I want remote desktop. Yeah, I got the remote desktop. How's the connectivity? I'll again try it. I'm working now. Sorry, I'm working in what? Desktop. This is my desktop. I got it. Here. This is my desktop. Remote desktop. This is my DC machine. That will get log out. So this is how you will take the remote desktop. Take the remote machine. That user which is logged in will be automatically shut down. Log out. So that's it for today. Any doubt related with this? Any doubts? Now you are taking the remote desktop from the RDC. Yes, you can take. Yes, you can take. Any other doubt? So I'm closing the connection. So is there any doubt or can I close the session for today? Any doubt? Anybody? Yes, you can type, but that you should have been no. Okay. I'm closing the session. Thank you everybody for today's session. So tomorrow onwards we'll start what? What is the doubt? Already I told you, that you can take it from ROD. So tomorrow we'll be discussing what? The servers, how to configure the server. So tomorrow we'll be discussing this server, TSCP. Yes, is there any policy that will be applied? Just instead of working on a physical, you are taking remotely. That's it. You cannot work through the RODC. Means you can take it through the RODC. But once you take the DC, means you are working on DC, not on RODC. You cannot make changes in the RODC. You are making the changes on the DC. How to log in? Same procedure. You enable what? Through user also, but for that you need to give to the user permission. By default, through administrator you can do, but if you want to do through this, you have a separate process through that. You need to create a user under the administrator group policy, then give him the privileges, then that user can log in. But it can be done through user also. You can do. I need to check it and I'll tell you we can do, but let me check that. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you everybody. Tomorrow we'll continue with what? TSCP side. So I'm closing the session.